Look at the look.
Sucks. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. He was a two-sport phenom who played minor league baseball, college football at UGA, and then started for the Dallas Cowboys as a rookie. His life took some unexpected turns, but his redemption story is one for the ages. NFL quarterback turned quarterback's coach turned one of this year's best comeback stories. Damn good dog, Quincy Carter. Quincy, I am too excited to talk to you today. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And before we get started, I have to remind all you people out there to like and subscribe. Quincy, I feel like you just appeared on social media. I don't think I'd ever seen you on social media until a few months ago. How does it feel being famous again after so many years when you were famous as a college and NFL quarterback?
Yeah, it's different, different for me because I've always kind of been a private person, but I'm now learning the importance of social media. I think it's a great platform, business-wise, if you got something going on business-wise. But then at the same time, the life that I'm living right now, and living, really living a life of recovery and to be able to help somebody else, is really important to me. So it's different, because actually I've been hiding, to be honest with you, and kind of embarrassed a little bit about how things went for me. I'm just being honest with you. And I have been on social media, but it's been in a lighter form. I never got on Twitter. You know what I mean? And actually vowed to never get on Twitter, but a buddy of mine was telling me, man, I need to be able to reach out to the masses a little bit more. And so that's what I've done. But it's different for me.
When you talk about being embarrassed, and of course we'll get into that later. How do you deal with some of the embarrassment from being on everybody's pedestal as an NFL and college quarterback, and then having a fall from grace?
How I dealt with it was drugs and alcohol. And that's the only way I knew how to deal with it and taking that pain away. I had some things personally happen to me within my family that really hurt too. And so when I say embarrassed, it was expectation of me, growing up. Since I can remember, it's probably 13, 14 years old, where the expectations was always high for me. So it was embarrassing to not be the person that everybody thought I should be, and then not know how really to deal with or cope with or really get some rehabilitation about the things I have been through and the things I've been struggling with my life.
I want to take it all the way back to Southwest DeKalb. We were talking a little bit about how you were a two-sport phenom, but before you became known as a two-sport phenom, you were actually playing three sports: baseball, football, and basketball. But tell us a story about why you were playing basketball in the first place and why you kind of fell off from your career as a basketball
Okay.
player.
What happened was my mom told me I can only play two sports. And so I chose baseball and basketball first. I didn't choose football. And then one of my friends begged my mom to play football, Felix Lewinsky, rest in peace, one of my good buddies from high school. I actually didn't start playing football until I was 9 years old. So baseball was always my first love. I got the opportunity to play for the East Cobb Astros. That was an exciting time for me. I was able to travel, around the United States during the summertime. So I really fell in love with baseball. Football, honestly, I wasn't very good. First of all, I call myself a fat kid at, right around 9 years old. I started picking up a lot of weight.
Wait. Hold on, back up. So you said you were not very good at football because you were a heavier kid?
Well, I wouldn't say I wasn't good, but I wasn't playing a position that I always dreamed of. So my first position was center, and I was number 53 actually. And what's so ironic, I ended up being the 53rd pick. Go figure. If that's not God, what is it? So my quarterbacking started late for me. Actually, I didn't start playing quarterback till I was 11. And so we had two divisions, Metro and Division. And so I played division my first year at 11 quarterback, but I was the backup quarterback. But at 12, I was like, man, I don't want to be the backup quarterback anymore. I want to be the starter. But I had to go to Metro, which is, like a farm system for the division team. So I went to Metro, and I ended up starting. So then when I got to high school, I gained my experience at 12 playing. I think I was 115 pounds division. Weight class I was playing in. And so when I got to high school, man, I had really started to develop, some confidence. I got some, some good coaches who, taught me some pretty good fundamentals to carry that on into high school. And when I got to the 8th grade, man, it was off and running for me at quarterback. My senior year in basketball, I really wanted to get drafted in baseball. I had gained, and worked for a good reputation in baseball, and I could possibly get drafted. And so I quit basketball. But it was a good decision because I ended up being drafted in the second round by the Chicago Cubs.
You committed to Tech when you were a senior in high school. You defected so that you could play baseball. Did you feel like a traitor?
Not at the time, because honestly, Georgia was on probation. I gave Georgia an opportunity, but my thinking was I didn't want to go to school and miss 2 straight bowl games of not playing in a bowl game. And so that was kind of my big thing. We ended up really only missing 1 bowl game. But then I had a high school coach by the name of Steve Davenport, and that was my mentor, like my best friend, my big brother, and he went to Georgia Tech and had some success too. Yeah, then I had another buddy of mine, Angelo Taylor, and we wanted to go to school together. Angelo, of course, is, 2 or 3 time gold Olympic champion, a couple silvers, and we wanted to go to school together. Then I also had my East Cobb buddies, from playing baseball, who were going there to play baseball with me too. So it became an easy decision, once I knew Georgia was going to be on probation. But once I got to Georgia, that's when I really started to feel like, wait a minute, I got 2 our biggest schools in an uproar right now.
I remember while you were at Georgia and how big of a difference you made. You were the 1998 SEC Freshman of the Year. You led us to a 9-3 season your first season. You led us to an 8-4 season your sophomore season. Talk a little bit about what it was like to be the big dog on campus, also coming off of a baseball career.
I really wanted to start from the jump. And so the main reason I didn't go to Georgia Tech is because one of my good buddies, Joe Hamilton, he was already entrenched in the starting position there, doing very well. I had a good coach in Jim Donnan who really believed in my ability. So what I did that summer leading up to coming into fall camp, I was playing baseball, but I was working out in the mornings time. In the morning time, I had the playbook. I was really, learning the playbook. So, man, I worked my butt off, man, to, come in there and win that starting position. I would be the first freshman quarterback to start since like 1945 or something like that. Yeah, I didn't really realize that. It was really about, me proving to people that I can be a solid SEC collegiate quarterback. That's what it was really about my first year.
I've read, and you tell me if it's true, is it true that you haven't been back to a Georgia game since you last played 20 years ago? And if that is true, you're nodding your head, I'm assuming it's true. Why haven't you been back in all those years? And when you think about being back on the sidelines, what does it make you feel? And what do you imagine it will be like when you get a chance to go back?
That is very true. That is very true. Me and Mark Rick talked about me coming back from my senior year. And I just be honest with you, I'm a straight shooter. Mark Rick wasn't that happy about me leaving, So yeah, he wasn't very happy about
Wait, back up. Coach Rick did not want you to leave to go pro?
Yes, it's getting ready to be Coach Rick's first year. So he wasn't all that happy about me leaving. And then to be honest with you, I'm a straight shooter, man. I know this gonna maybe, I might upset a couple of people, but anyway, I'm gonna just tell it straight. When I was getting drafted, there was a process where the coaches had to really talk to, the coaches that were there to ask about what kind of player I was. And there was a lot of coaches that were speaking up of who I was as a person and as a player that never really, worked with me. So I took that to heart a little bit, and I heard about some of the rumblings that some Georgia coaches were saying about me who never coached me. I know now Bill Parcells and Coach Donnan are real good friends, so he was able, to really speak to Coach Donnan, and so there were some things said about me that I wasn't so happy about.
Did Coach Rick have some negative things to say to pro scouts about you?
Yes, he did. He did. But honestly, from 2001 to about 2005, when I did get that break to come home, all right, and I did get that off week, I always went back to my high school. You know what I mean? So I wasn't a player that would come back to Georgia first because, I was so entrenched in our neighborhood and what Southwest DeKalb meant to me. So I always went back home. But then there was a period from 2006, and I'm not making excuses, to 2012, where, I didn't really want to let people see who I had become. Personally, I was insecure about a lot of things that, that happened in my life, and I wasn't ready to face that, honestly. So in 2012, I was coaching up in Dawsonville. I was the head baseball coach, and I actually brought my baseball team down to Athens. I actually spoke to the team. Mark Rick had me come back, and I had to discuss some of the ins and outs of using marijuana, drinking, and what bad it could do to you. So I did that. And I spoke to the team, and then I was supposed to get tickets for the first game. And honestly, Coach Rick, told me the game was sold out. He didn't have any tickets.
Wait a second. Hold on. So at this point, you had played for the Cowboys. You had played for the Jets.
Yep.
You were now coaching in the area. You had led Georgia back to relevance in the late 90s. But
you can say that.
But you couldn't get a ticket to a game?
Yeah, and that really rubbed me wrong. It really did. And, I got to tell the truth about it. And that rubbed me wrong for a few years. Not that I don't love the University of Georgia, just things happen in my life. But, we're here now. I was actually supposed to speak to the team back in March.
For spring day, for G-Day.
Exactly. But Corona hit. And so I'm still waiting on the word now to when we can get that back set up.
Let me ask you this. What advice do you have for transfer quarterback Jamie Newman in handling the Georgia fans who, if you read the message boards or you read the Twitter threads, can be very unforgiving and oftentimes just downright nasty, especially when you are a Black quarterback in the SEC. So whether it's to Jamie or to any other the Black quarterbacks in our conference, how do you tell them to navigate the landmines that come with being in the position that you were once in?
First of all, he has to get entrenched into that locker room. And you've got to have the guys that's going to be going out and fighting for you on Saturdays. Those are the guys that are important. They got to know you're a leader. They got to know what they got as a quarterback. And so that's what's important. And then at the end of the day, man, you hear this cliche all the time, but I'm telling you, it really is so true. You only can control what you can control. The main thing is, though, go be the best leader you can be, get into that playbook, and let the guys in the locker room believe in who you are.
When you were coming out of UGA, was there any doubt in your mind that you wanted to go to the NFL, or because you had played 3 years in the minor leagues, did you think, dang, baseball money sometimes is bigger and more guaranteed? You can play a longer career with less injuries. Like, did you debate that at all?
By my junior year, it was no debate for me, simply because, what happened in baseball, I'll be honest with you, that everyday grind of baseball really slapped me in my face. That's a different grind. And if you're not ready, for taking them road trips, 12 o'clock at night and riding through the night to a city you never heard of, and playing every day, playing with injuries every day, learning how to be a grown man at the same time. If you don't have that right mindset for baseball, then it's not for you. So by the time my junior year, I knew I was going full speed with with football, I'm sorry. And, and baseball was on the back burner. But by my junior year, after I gave up baseball my freshman year, I was full speed with baseball. I was full speed with football.
And you never thought, especially after you finished your career with the Cowboys, or even when I think you played for the Jets for one season, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You didn't think, oh man, maybe I can go back to baseball. You didn't want to pull a Tim Tebow?
It really never entered my mind because I really knew the grind of baseball and me just did not get along. I was going to go football all the way, probably since I quit baseball my freshman year.
Listen, I have been on record countless times as saying that I would rather watch almost anything than baseball. And I appreciate the sport. And I know you have to be intelligent and patient and
very patient
to really appreciate the sport. So I don't knock my MLB buddies out there, but I understand, I empathize with you when you say it's not your thing, because it's not my thing either. Give me basketball and football all day. Okay, you were drafted by the Cowboys, second round, 2001. You started as a rookie. 2003, you led the Cowboys to a 10-6 season and to a playoff appearance. Do you remember your very first NFL touchdown?
Actually, wow, that's crazy. I don't. I remember, listen, the biggest play for me, I remember the second play of the game versus Tampa Bay. And it was a rollout pass play. And, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had Derrick Brooks, Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, and some other great players too. And I remember Barber, who played corner, and I remember going towards the right sideline and just stopping on a dime, and Warren Sapp trying to take my head off and stopping on the dime and cutting back across field. I made it to the 1 yard line. But I do remember that first. Before I remember, actually my first touchdown pass was to Rocket Ismail up in Washington, D.C.
Cowboys have to get to the 44 for first down. The blitz coming, Carter throws long. Way down, Rocket Ismail heading for the goal line, touchdown! First touchdown pass in the NFL career for Quincy Carter.
But I actually threw that touchdown on Champ Bailey, too.
I was going to say, you beat Champ on that play.
Yeah.
Your teammate.
But what's so crazy, when you asked me that question, the first thing that came to my mind was that play in Tampa. And then as I was talking, I said, yeah, dog, that was your first touchdown.
They're always the hated franchise, and next to the Patriots, of course. We like to pick on the Cowboys, and we love to beat up on you guys when you're really down. There's always been rumors about questionable culture, especially from the top with Jerry Jones. What was it really like in the locker room in Dallas?
Man, we had a pretty great nucleus, man. And I mean great, too. We had, veteran leaders like Dat Wynn and Dexter Coakley, Darren Woodson, Emmitt Smith, Flozell Adams. So we had a good, veteran mix. And then we had some hungry, rookies. I think our draft class had about 9 drafted players. And then we also, signed about 4 or 5 free agents who actually made the team. So my rookie class, we were a very tight-knit group. We got the opportunity to work with Grant Hill, the senior Grant Hill. So that was fun, him getting us in the community, him teaching us, about the game, things on and off the field. So it was a real tight-knit group. The veteran guys really respected us because of how hard we were working. Now, we were 5-11, my first 2 years, but we were a tough out. We were a tough loss. You weren't just going to come and just beat us down.
Coach Parcells has gone on record to ESPN saying that he couldn't save you. He said that you were smart, you had the tangibles and the intangibles, but that he just couldn't save you. Did you guys really get close? Did you remain close after your time in Dallas? And what are some of the things that Coach Parcells tried to do that you wouldn't listen to during that time in your life?
We were very, very close. The thing that really jumps out at me right now, just thinking about Coach Parcells, is that every day he expected you to be great for only that day. And if you could limit, if you can, bring everything down to you just going in that locker room, whether it's the off season, you lifting your best, you running your best, you throwing your best, and just being great just for that day. Get your rest, take care of your body, eat well, hang around your family, make sure you're a leader as the quarterback of the football team. It was just the little things that really took my game to that next level that I'll forever be grateful for. And then it was the talks that we had. He knew I was in the drug program. As a matter of fact, I was in rehab right before he came. So when he got named the coach, he called me. Our first conversation was in rehab. And he said, hey, I'll talk to you when you get back, because I struggled right before 2002 season. I got into the program and I struggled during that season, and I ended up getting benched during that season. So, right after the season, I went to rehab. So when our first conversation was, I was in rehab. He said, we'll talk when I get back to Dallas and everything. And he was always a straight shooter with me. He told me I was going to have to earn the job. He wasn't going to take no mess from me. And hey, I could definitely respect that. I've always suffered from anxiety. You know what I mean?
Even as a child, like growing up, you considered yourselves to be someone who suffered from anxiety and depression?
Even as a child, definitely, when it came to sports. And as I got, better, my game improved, the expectations grew. I leaned on marijuana to smooth everything out, to be honest with you.
And Quincy, you talk about you talk about depending on marijuana to help you stay calm and have less anxiety. And I would never dismiss anyone's struggle with addiction, but you oftentimes, or I've heard you at least, or I've read about you saying that you link your addiction back to that first marijuana joint. Well, as we know today, society largely looks at marijuana as being either medicinal or harmless recreationally. But you still think that your addiction struggles started with marijuana?
Yes, it did. And it was something that, definitely in Dallas, right before we went to training camp, because I only smoked, a couple of times. We had just signed Vinny Testaverde. I was feeling a little anxious about that. He was coming into training camp trying to take my job. And I just wanted something to take that edge off. You know what I mean? And I always did that from, really the age of 17. And so that whole year and a half that, by the grace of God, I did fail another test after, I went from the Cowboys to the Jets. I never failed another test, but it was tough on me. So I was doing things. Now that I look back in hindsight, I've got the therapy under me. I got the wisdom. I know where I suffered at. And so I suffered in ways of, I maybe wasn't smoking, but I was suffering in maybe my relationships, because all these things link over, you know what I mean? And I wasn't in therapy, because there's therapy, that helps you out. There's meditation that helps you out. There is exercise that helps you out. So it's so many positive things that you can do to take that anxiety away, instead of going to a chemical, that ultimately, changes your mind, and going to a chemical that eventually you might try to lean on too much, and then you become dependent on, So now I know, being 42, sadly to say, but hey, God, I'm here now. But now I've got the tools to do the little things, to meditate, to make sure I'm taking care of my mental state before anything,
Right.
and how important that is. So yeah.
During those tumultuous Cowboys years off the field, because again, on the field, especially that third season, when you guys went 10-6 and you led the team to a playoff berth, your off-field issues, were they limited to marijuana, or were there other drugs? Was it cocaine? Was it, heroin? What other kinds of substances contributed to your addiction?
It was marijuana, and you know something. I got accused at the time for failing my test for cocaine.
I remember Quincy.
It was
That's why I asked you. I remember
yeah,
reading headlines that
exactly.
Quincy Carter was on cocaine.
No, I failed my test for marijuana. At the time, I was a light drinker. I did drink, but even my teammates, they'll tell you I didn't like the feeling of being drunk. But what happened was in 2005, I realized that I probably wasn't going to get back with a team, and marijuana wasn't good enough anymore. And so then my drinking started to pick up, and so then I would mess around with some prescription drugs or what have you. But my drinking really took off. So now fast forward 2008, 2008, I actually got an opportunity to go down and work out for the Dolphins, but I had built a tolerance so high to not really deal with life on life terms, all right, where I went to Kansas City, was playing an arena ball, because I went to rehab with Hollywood Henderson, and so I decided I didn't want to wait and see if an NFL team was going to pick me up, so I go, to Kansas City. Well, I really didn't play like the first 4 or 5 games. I ended up playing the last 3. So I signed a 3-year deal with Kansas City and just say, hey, you know something? This is going to be the end of all. And so then my addiction picked back up. And so then the second week of training camp, Bill Parcells calls me and gives me a workout for the Dolphins. Had a great workout, told me to go back to the hotel. And I had tried to be sneaky, and I put hot water in the cup, and they knew I had tampered with the sample, and so they couldn't even test the sample. And he said, "Hey man, we can't mess around with them." He called my agent and told me, "Hey, we can't mess around with this right now because we can't even test it." So when that happened, my addiction just took off again, full flight. Fast forward about 4 or 5 arrests, and then I come home for the first time in like 5 years. I get a job in North Georgia, start coaching at a gym. I was walking to the movie theater and seen a guy, and he just stopped me and said, "Hey man, do you want to start literally, I was walking to the movie theater. At this point, I got arrested. Yes, I can't make this up. I got arrested at one point, and my car was behind on his nose. And so I ended up having my car repoed. So now I'm on foot. And the guy asked me, do I want a job starting a program up in Dawsonville? And I said, heck yeah, let me get out of here right now, because I'm living in an extended stay in Cumming, Georgia. Go figure, yes. So I took the job right away. And I never was drunk or high at practice around those kids, but my addiction was so bad, man. I was feeling so lonely. I was really pretty much in Dawsonville by myself. You know what I mean? But the enjoyment of coaching those kids, man, was my love. But I was still struggling. Coming off the field. So man, it's been some trying days for me. But God is good. I'm here. And I'm just centered, man, and just focused on what God needs me to be focused on.
You talked recently about how this is one of your longest stints and one of your proudest stints of being sober and of recovery. What makes this part of your recovery so different than past times when you've been in rehab and when you've been in recovery?
Yeah. The biggest thing is my relationship with God. I've always proclaimed, and I feel bad about it because I'm a church-going guy. I grew up in the church, but having a personal relationship, and I mean, having all your affairs, praying about it, asking God for His wisdom. You might not get that answer right then and there, But I'm pretty sure you're a God-fearing woman, and God's spirit when He's, with you. And so that's been the biggest key, my relationship with God. And then the other thing, what I had to do is I had to let other people help me. You know, I've been this strong-willed guy who've always kind of wanted to do things on his own. You know, I got this much, so I've had success in my life. I can beat this too. So I've had to be able to entrench myself totally to this AA program. You know, I've got Hollywood Henderson in my life. He actually lives in Boca Raton, but, you know, we're always on the phone 4 or 5 times a week. But then I got a guy here, my sponsor here in Austin, who I meet with once a week, so we can really get entrenched into the AA book. Not to dismiss the Bible can't give you everything, but there are some things in that, well, there are a lot of things in that AA book that can help you with your everyday walk. It just gives you a different perspective on how you really have to live to beat this addiction. So that's where I'm at with both of them, and I live it. You know, I get up in the morning, I've got a routine that I have. I'm reading out the Bible, I'm reading out the AA book. You know, there's some mornings that I can't do everything, but I make sure that I can do a little bit. This Just for Today book I got. So it's the little things that I'm able to do consistently. And honestly, I was talking to Hollywood about this. My recovery is not easy, but my routine and my relationship with God and my spirit makes it where I'm not like, I think it's probably been since the 2nd month I've been sober where drugs and alcohol was on my mind like that. It's not even on my mind because the way I'm living, the way what I'm feeding my spirit, and I'm just living in it, man. And that's just, you know, it's not a thing where I'm thinking about it or anything like that, man.
When you think about the financial implications or the financial opportunities that you lost because of addiction and anxiety, how do you reconcile that? How do you forgive yourself?
Man, listen, that's been tough for me. That's been real tough. The financial aspect of what I was dealing with. And then the 2 other things was a family situation that really, really, you know, hindered my growth. And I'll leave that at that. That's kind of personal. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. But also, you know, how I let myself down with being the quarterback of America's team. So those 3 things really ate at me. So what I was doing was I was basically going to rehab, saying I want to be sober, but then I wasn't dealing with it internally and wasn't doing the work that's going to help me relieve me from all, you know, that I'm going through. So, you know, I was half-heartedly praying, but I wasn't asking God to take everything away. Okay, you can have this, God. But this thing with, you know, what I'm going through with my family, this thing that I'm going through with the Cowboys, no, they still was wrong how they released me. They shouldn't have been doing like that. So I'm holding on to all these resentments that are really, you know, holding me back. So, you know, I'm getting 7, 8, 9 months, but then I'm, you know, this angry person and I haven't let everything go and I haven't did the work internally to really, really let that go. So that's been the key.
You know, and honestly, Quincy, I applaud you. Not that you need my pat on the back, but I think it's such a big deal, especially when Black men who are athletes or who are former athletes are so vocal about their struggles with anxiety, depression, addiction, because we look at, you know, society looks at Black athletes, especially as gladiators, as unbreakable, as superheroes. And so sometimes it's hard for us, you know, on the other side of the field to look at someone like you and think that you have the same issues that everybody in everyday life does. So I think what you have done, what you are continuing to do, will continue to help not only current players, but teammates of yours who are struggling with this in their second act in life.
Yep.
Let's talk a little football. Let's talk a little football. Let's start with our team, University of Georgia. So Quincy, our Bulldogs are the perennial bridesmaid when it comes to championships. We're always ranked high enough preseason to control our own destiny. We are consistently securing top-ranked recruiting classes. We've had arguably some of the best defenses in the SEC, at least lately. And I mean, name one program with a legacy better than ours when it comes to running backs. You can't.
Yep.
So,
exactly.
You know, so what about the Kirby era has not translated to a national championship.
You know something? What is this? Kirby's fourth year we're going into, right?
We're going into the fifth, but fourth year right now.
Oh, going into the fifth year. Okay. Listen, we've been in the the Final Four, 2 of those 4 years, right? We can't even utter those words out of our mouths from the last 40 years since 1980. The consistency of this program. You know, Mark Rick had a couple years where we won the SEC championship, but we weren't up for the national championship. So we got to pump our brakes. And that's the level Kirby has brought this program to, too. But we got to pump our brakes and really think about where we really are right now. And we're there. We're right there. You know.
Are we, though? Are we?
Yeah.
Quincy.
Name me 3 programs. No, name me 1 program outside of Clemson and Alabama who's been in the college football Final Four in the last 4 years. I hate to just become.
Okay, Quincy. So you can take the new college football championship. Was that 6 years old at this point? But even if you want to go back to the inception of the BCS in '98, since the inception of playoffs, so BCS now college football playoff, Tennessee has won, LSU's won twice, Auburn's won, Bama's won a million times, Florida's won at least twice. I think they won twice since the BCS era. So our rivals are continually winning, no matter if it's BCS or college football championship. And we still have not since 1980. And I understand and I appreciate what you're saying about your friend Kirby. I know he was your teammate. He was a little bit of a mentor to you. So I know you have to keep it politically correct. And
no, get out of here. We're there. Come on, get out of here. Listen, I'm not just being politically correct. In the last 4 years, we've been right there in the Final Four, and we're still, knocking on the door right now. We're
always knocking on the door, but never getting in. But go ahead.
Yes, I understand that. I understand. And this dates all the way really back to 1980, to be honest with you. So we it's just not about what Kirby's era is doing, too. We're frustrated about 40 years. You know what I mean? And we really are. And then, actually, you just said it. To see our rivals, Auburn, Florida, LSU, Alabama. Yeah, to see them win national championships, it's not easy digesting, I guess. But listen, I'm gonna tell you, we're right there at the top of the food chain when it comes, just like you said, recruiting classes. It's just really about us getting over the hump, having that 2-3 game run with the SEC championship and the 2 playoff games, and finishing the deal. But I can't deny, and I'm not being politically correct, I can't deny where we're at right now in the state of the program. And I know you're frustrated, but just wholeheartedly, you really can't deny where we really, really are. But it's frustrating.
I appreciate being on the outside looking in at the end of every single season. Okay. I appreciate that. And I think, as we all have had very high expectations of Kirby coming from 8 years working with Saban, from that championship pedigree, we thought plug in Kirby, make us SEC, or make us like the Bama of the SEC East. The fan in me is extremely frustrated, but the analyst in me wants to figure out what about the X's and O's can't get us past the Bama hump.
Somebody told me be careful with this too, but not the Jake Fromm, but the Justin Fields situation really set us back a little bit. I'm not the head coach. Kirby's got a lot of decisions to make. I understand that, but I was really looking forward to Jake Fromm's sophomore year with the rest of that team and what we had built, and being in the trenches right there at the end with Alabama, throwing that 2nd and 26 pass down that sideline. So that set us back a little bit. I'll be honest with you, that set us back. And so now we're kind of looking back to get back on, the right track with the quarterback situation now with Fromm leaving. But be patient. You know what I mean? I'm a very optimistic Dog fan, to be honest with you. But I do understand that position at quarterback is very delicate. And so I'm going to be patient with that position this year. But I'm looking for our defense to be dominant and win a lot of football games.
That's what we need. Or do
Yeah.
you consider yourself a Dallas Cowboys fan still?
You know something? I'm not. I'm a big Dak Prescott fan, but I was born in Chicago and I grew up a Chicago Bears fan. You know what I mean? So I'm really at heart a Chicago Bears fan, but I bled the star. So, some days I end up watching TV and I end up start cheering just for no reason. But like, hold on, wait a minute. But now I'm a big Dak Prescott fan. I love what he's about. I love the leader he is. I've got a couple friends within the organization that really tells me that he's got the heart of that team. So I'm a big Dak Prescott fan before I'm a Cowboys fan, but at heart, I'm truly am a Bears fan.
Well, let's talk about Dak for a second, because I've appreciated Dak since his Mississippi State games, Mississippi State days. I was watching him, obviously watching SEC football all day when no one even knew his name. So back in February, Coach McCarthy tried to get out in front of the story, and he said that Dak was absolutely the Cowboys franchise quarterback. Then they signed Andy Dalton to a one-year contract, which I cannot lie, I found it very curious because I still look at Andy Dalton as a starter in the league. Of course, since then, Dak has signed his one-year, $31.4 million contract. Do the Cowboys have full confidence in Dak as their future?
I think they have full confidence in him. I think the contract situation has rubbed some of the, loyal executive guys the wrong way because, to have that title on you, America's team quarterback, is a big title. So I'm sure a lot of people, wanted him to take that contract and say, hey, you're the quarterback of America's team. You should appreciate that. But I think they believe in him as a leader. I think they believe in him, coming down the stretch in fourth quarters, winning, pulling out football games for him. But I think that's that divide where the contract situation got into, some people's heart and feelings about him not going ahead and signing that deal. That they laid out on the table. So I really think it's some belief in him because trust me, if it wasn't any belief in him, he wouldn't be, even considered the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys because I know Jerry Jones personally. So I think it's some belief in him, but I don't think everybody's happy about the way the contract situation was handled.
No, I agree with you on there. Rank your top 5 active NFL quarterbacks.
Wow, you're going to do me like that, huh? In no particular order. Particular order. Because I'm a big Russell Wilson fan. So him and Patrick Mahomes, I go back and forth with them, with 1A, 1B. But I'll say Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, and this one is tough for me because honestly, the body of work that Matt Ryan has put in, in his 12 years, I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. It's just he's got Hall of Fame credentials right now. You know what I mean? But to see the way Deshaun Watson carries his football team, without the best offensive line at times, I got to sneak Deshaun Watson in my 5th spot.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Deshaun. Yeah. I had Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Mahomes.
Okay.
Who was my other one? I didn't have Cam. I had Drew Brees, too.
Okay. Yeah. And I've been, I'm a big Dak fan, so I've been going back and forth with people on Facebook. And so I've been able to make some comments and then actually, kind of do a little research on it. And my only reason for not having, and I came to this conclusion, my only reason for not having Brady, Brees, and Rodgers in that, well, not particularly in the top 5, but not better than Dak Prescott, because that's who I'm always arguing about, Dak Prescott, is simply because they had better seasons than them last year, all 3 of them. Because, Drew Brees only played
half of the season. Cause,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I can't put them in that top 5. So just strictly going off last year, coming into this year, that's my 5. And
Quincy,
I'm
I would have
sticking
to say
to it.
that's a very flawed argument because if you cannot put Dak over Drew Brees
I
any day
have
of the
to.
week.
I have to. I have to.
Can't.
Just because of his body of work. Dak Prescott made 5,000 yards look so easy last year. He really did.
That's fair.
He really did. So I've got to put him over Drew Brees just because of that.
I don't want to argue with you all day about that. What I do want to do is I want to play a fun game that I like to call Big Dog, Little Dog Rapid Fires, where I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm just going to reel them off super quickly. You have to answer them as quickly as you can with the first thing that comes to the top of your mind without giving it much thought. Are you ready to play?
I am.
Okay, here we go. Highlight of your playing career, college or NFL?
The LSU game. Playing at LSU at Death Valley as a freshman, them being number 4 in the nation. I think we was 8 or 9, and going in there and beating the Tigers that night.
Favorite music artist?
Jay-Z.
In one short sentence, how do you feel about social media?
At times, I think it's gimmicky, but you need it. And it gets your platform and your expression of what you're about and what you really want to say to the world.
Austin or Atlanta?
Oh my God! Neither one of them. Decatur.
Okay, that's slick. Activism in sports, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Most memorable college teammate?
Jonas Jennings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most challenging part of fatherhood?
My most challenging, I honestly, has been struggling some years and missing time out of my kids' life, and then having to, recreate these relationships and build them back up. So that's been my biggest struggle. Yeah.
Okay. Your go-to game day ritual?
Eggs and chicken. Eggs and grilled chicken.
Pretty good. Okay. Name something about playing in the NFL that the average fan has no idea about.
Something that the average fan doesn't have any idea about. That we're sitting, a little corny though, but sometimes we're sitting waiting on the TV, commercials to be, over with, and we're just sitting in the huddle getting cold for them to come back to some live TV.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
In 10 years, you see yourself
being a head high school coach of Southwest DeKalb High School.
Amen. And finally, what is something unique about Quincy Carter that most people don't know?
Something unique? I don't know. I'm not the big bragger, I guess. Something unique. Okay, I'm allergic to seafood.
Wait, you said again?
I said I'm allergic to seafood.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Look at the look.
That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. That was good. That was so good. You did such a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Because sometimes people take too long to answer. I'm like, I need for you to answer this very so well. Let me ask you this. Recently, more than 60 football players in the NFL opted out of this season because of health concerns. Obviously, with COVID, COVID has changed all of our lives. On the college front, UConn has canceled its season. Several Big Ten schools have put a pause on their workouts. The conventional schedules that we're used to seeing every season have already been amended to include in-conference play only. Do you think that it's even worth the risk of moving forward with the season this year if there's not a vaccine?
I really don't think so. Because I've got a couple college coaching friends, and I do have a little word that some tests are being hitting about these guys really having COVID-19. So now you're starting to play with people's lives just because of a dollar bill. And with me having that information, knowing, you know, that what some of the things that might go on, just a high test, so you know you can keep a season alive. It's very scary. It's alarming, and so with that being said, no, I don't think it's worth it, to be honest with you.
And you have your own camps and clinics, QC 17 quarterback school, where you coach
Yeah,
quarterbacks and you also have receivers come in so that your
yeah.
quarterbacks have moving targets. How are you able to keep a healthy, safe environment that is still conducive for your athletes to learn the skills they need to learn to excel at their position?
See, you know, we're definitely social distancing at the same time. You know, I make sure my equipment is clean. But then the other thing is I'm not going over 10 guys at one time. And then, you know, I got a job, you know, right out of rehab, and I was working at a family ER. So I still got doctor friends who's giving me information, you know, about being outside, how hot it is. Germs really can't, you know, we really can't contract it being outside, but we still need to stay away from each other. So, you know, I'm getting information for these kids and making sure we're all staying safe.
You said in 10 years, you see yourself as being the head football coach of Southwest DeKalb School, but
Mhm.
high school.
Yeah.
But what's the most immediate next thing for you? What's your day-to-day, rehab recovery look like, and what do you just hope to achieve in your daily life?
Well, my rehab is every day. I mean, my recovery is every day. So that's first and foremost. You know, when I get up in the morning, I'm on my routine to set my day up for success. I'll continue working with these quarterbacks. You know, the trainings the workouts that we're having, whether it's groups, whether it's individual. Then also, I'm gonna go ahead and start dabbing in a little baseball, a little fall baseball, because actually I just found out that I won't be coaching a regular 12U. I was coaching a 12U team, and we're not going to be able to field enough players to field that team. So I'm going to go ahead and dab in a little travel baseball for the fall season. But then the other two major things that I'm doing is really just one major thing, but with two purposes. Is getting my nonprofit off the ground. You know, I want to target single parent homes for kids that can afford to go to these camps that a lot of kids can't afford to go to. And so, you know, a lot of these kids go to these camps, they can get ranked and everything, the important camps. But, you know, in some of these low-income single-family homes, they're not being able to afford that. And then the other thing I want to really help raise money for within my nonprofit is people who are struggling with addiction. So I'll be targeting both of those. I'm in the process of getting all the paperwork done. I'm a little late bloomer, you know, to this business thing. Hey, you know, but hey, better late than never. You know,
Better late than
so
never.
those are the things that I'm gonna be involved with myself here for the next few months.
I appreciate that. Um, I think that everyone can learn a lot. Again, I know I've said it a million times, but I think that we can learn a lot from you. And more than anything, I think we can learn humility, because I can only
Yeah,
imagine what
buddy.
it's like to be at the pinnacle and then to
Uh-huh.
lose it, and
Yep.
then to regain a new path and still continue to be successful. What is your one piece of advice to everyone listening who is trying to overcome their own struggles?
Man, you can't do it. You know, in our world, a world, we talk about a higher power of God or God, but you can't do it without surrendering to a higher power. And for me, it's God. And that's been the biggest key, you know, for me and my recovery, is just giving everything over to Him, and man, getting the hell up out the driver's seat and let Him drive. And man, let me tell you, I'm back sitting up in the car like this now. Take the wheel. So let God have that wheel, man.
Amen. Thank you, Quincy Carter. Always a big dog and always a pleasure.